Welcome to week 4 of the Made to Crave Action Plan. You know, I love the verse Deuteronomy 2:3, which says, "You have circled this mountain long enough. Now head north." Now that we're over halfway in our study, I think it's time we truly put a stake in the ground and proclaim we are heading north. We have circled this mountain long enough of losing the same 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. We are going to put a stake in the ground this time and say it's time. We're heading north and we're never looking back. To help facilitate my discussions this week, my friend Tanya Bendixson and Dr. Ski Chilton will join me again. We're going to talk about substitution, about trading our unhealthy snacks for healthy ones, and also something I think you're really going to be surprised at. He says most Americans are malnourished. That's right. He explains why many Americans are malnourished, what we can do about that, and why it's happening. Now, as we go on throughout this great journey of matching God's truths with those desires that we have, those cravings for food, I thought it would be really important in this session to show you how to take a trigger. You know, those little things that tickle the edges of our mind, those times when those brownies and salty things are just screaming our name because they're so close and God's truth seems so far away. Well, this week, we're going to learn how to bring God's truths very close. I'm going to show you how a verse that I've heard so many times finally came alive for me and helped me to take up a new defense to the temptations of the enemy. I'm so excited. Are you ready? Remember, we were made to crave God, not food. Now let's head north and into session 4. Yesterday, I took my youngest daughter bowling. Now, I cannot say that I typically enjoy bowling, but I do enjoy spending time with Brooke. So, when I asked her what kind of fun mommy-daughter outing could we go on, she said, you know, I'd really like to go bowling. So we get there, and I'm not feeling very confident in my abilities, but we get there, and they have this amazing thing at the bowling alley. They have this little lever that they pull and these little guardrails pop up so that when you throw your ball down the alley, you never have to worry about it going in the gutter. Now, let me tell you, I was Facebooking last night asking people's advice about bowling, but I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a whole lot of worries. I scored 121. Now, I only had to use the guardrails like 1 or 2 times, but I still scored 121. And my daughter did quite well too. Isn't it amazing when we have the guardrails up in life, how we don't have to worry so much about throwing out something that could go into the gutter? In other words, when I stepped up to roll my ball, I had no fear at all of getting down into the ruts of life because I knew I was protected all the way down that alley, all the way down the path. You see, sometimes life is going to come at us and it's going to make us feel like we're about to go into the ditch. I know sometimes when I was going through my healthy eating journey, and even to this day, sometimes life throws at me something that makes me feel like I'm just down in the ditch again. But then this week, as we were running, Holly, my great friend, gave me this verse, and it sounded fresh and new, even though it was the first time I had ever really understood it in the powerful way that she presented it. It's in Ephesians chapter 6, starting in verse 12, where we hear about the armor of God. Now, don't start yawning and falling asleep. Maybe you've heard these verses all a long time, but we're going to unpack something new today. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Now, sometimes our struggle feels like it's against flesh and blood. If a friend says something that hurts my feelings, sometimes it feels like my struggle is against that friend. My struggle is not against that friend. My struggle is against Satan wanting to add confusion and separate. Remember, I talked about in one of the previous weeks, Satan's very name means one who casts something between two to cause a separation. Satan wants to separate us in our relationships. Satan wants to separate us from the truth. Satan wants to separate us from God's best. And so the chapter goes on in Ephesians chapter 6, starting in verse 13, to lay out the various armor of God. But there's one verse that kind of puts an exclamation point on the whole chapter. And this is the verse that Holly brought to my attention. And when she pulled it out and read it just alone, it grabbed me in a brand new way. It's verse 16. It says this: "In addition to all of this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one." In addition to all of this, take it up. Take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish some of the arrows? No, all of the arrows. Every single one of those fiery darts that come our way every day. If we want to stay out of the rut, we got to take it up. Take up the shield of faith. And with that, we can extinguish all the arrows, the flaming arrows of the evil one. So as I was reading this, I thought, you know what? Really, when Satan throws something at me to cause a separation, it used to be that I would want to run to food because food was comfortable. And for a moment, it seemed that food would wrap around the pain of those fiery darts, those flaming arrows, and it would seem like it would extinguish it for just a little bit. But then my shame and my guilt for overeating or using food in an inappropriate way, it would start to make the flaming arrows consume me even more. So as I read this, I thought, instead of letting these situations bring me down, I've got to receive the take me up attitude. In other words, with my faith, with my shield of faith, I can literally take it up. Now, here's what's interesting. When I looked up the word shield in the original Greek language, it described a shield with 4 corners. And as I thought about that, I thought, I want to label my 4 corners with a thank you note to Satan. Now, that may seem really strange, but you see, those flaming arrows, instead of consuming me, they can actually remind me of what my faith can take me up to. So let's look at a couple of verses because I'm going to show you the 4 corners of how I've labeled my shield. Now, you may label your shield a little bit differently, and I want to encourage you, go through the Bible and find some amazing verses of faith, or label your shield the same as me. It doesn't matter. But what I want you to do is I want you to take it up. When something tries to bring you down this week, I want you to take it up. Take up your shield of faith. And here's how I'm going to do it. James 1:2. This is going to be the first gift that those arrows are going to do for me. James 1:2. So my first corner is James 1:2. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. And perseverance must finish its work so that you may be made mature and complete, not lacking anything. Thank you, Satan. You see, you meant this trial to bring me down, but I'm going to take it up. I'm going to consider it pure joy. Because you see, because you have given this to me, instead of letting it take me down, I'm going to let it take me up. And this trial is going to develop in me perseverance. Perseverance that I can't get any other way. And if I want to become a mature person, not lacking anything, where my signature song is not going to be Mick Jagger's song, I can't get no satisfaction. You didn't know you're going to get a free concert tonight, right? This is awesome, right? Okay. I don't want to be singing like Mick Jagger. I can't get no satisfaction. I want to be mature. I want to be complete. I want to be not lacking anything. And the only way for me to get that is to develop perseverance. And the only way my perseverance can be developed is when trials come and test my faith. And the testing of my faith, when I take up my shield of faith and use it against the arrows of the evil one, it's developing in me perseverance. Thank you, Satan. Instead of this bringing me down, I'm going to let it take me up. Okay, that's the first corner. The second corner of my shield of faith is going to be Hebrews 11:6. Hebrews 11:6, this is probably one of my most favorite ones. Instead of this issue bringing me down, I'm going to let it take me up. And did you know that when Satan tries to throw something at us and when our faith is tested, do you know it's an opportunity for us to please God? And without faith, it is impossible to please God. Therefore, with faith, it is possible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. The Greek word for that word seek is exiteo. In other words, crave. That's what that word means. He exists and he rewards those who truly crave him. Without faith, it is impossible to please God. But with faith, it is possible. When we take up that faith, instead of letting it bring us down, we have an opportunity to please God. The next one is Proverbs 3:5-8. It paves the path for our protection. So Proverbs 3:5-8. Proverbs 3:5-8. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. I don't understand this trial. I don't like this trial, but I'm not going to trust in my own heart or my own understanding. In all my ways, every single one of my ways, not just some of my ways, but in all my ways, I'm going to acknowledge him and he will make my path straight. When I read this verse, I realized it's not just my spiritual ways. It's my physical ways too, that I need to acknowledge him, and he will make my path straight. Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil, and this will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. You see, I probably would not have been thinking so much about my health if I never would have struggled with my weight. Thank you, Satan. You tried to bring me down with this issue, but now, because I needed to focus on nourishment and getting healthy, I realized my weight was just an outside indication of an internal situation. Physically and spiritually, I needed to get healthy. So what you meant for evil, God has used for good. And the last one, Luke 17:11-18. And I won't write it on the board because you can write it down on your piece of paper. My last corner, Luke 17:11-18. It will change my pity to purpose. You see, in Luke 17, starting in verse 11, there's this amazing story where Jesus is walking along the road and he sees 10 lepers. And in pity, they call out to him, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." And then he cleanses them. And all 10 of them are able to leave the leper colony, but only one comes back, praising God in a loud voice. And it's not because God has hearing problems. He comes back praising God so that other people will hear, because he wanted to change his pity into a great purpose. Look what God has done. And then he kneels at Jesus' feet and he thanks him. And Jesus says, "Rise and go. Your faith has made you well." All 9 were cleansed, but only one who came back, letting his pity be turned into a purpose, where Jesus said, "Rise and go." Only he was made completely well. I want to close tonight with this amazing email that I got today, because I used to think my weight struggle was the biggest curse of my life. But when I take it up, instead of letting it bring me down, I take up my shield of faith And I can say with all certainty, this has developed my perseverance. This has absolutely given me a chance to please God in a way that maybe I would never otherwise had the chance to. This has absolutely paved the path for my protection. It was an outside indication of an internal situation. But this, changing my pity into purpose, sweet sister, walk in the grace of this reality. Let God change the pity that sometimes I know you must feel it because I felt it. I hated this issue. I begged God for a different issue. But when I got this email today, it changed everything. He changed my pity and let me see such a bigger purpose. I wrote a devotion, and this sweet friend named Robin said this: "Thank you. That is all I can say. God has led me to you by the book Made to Crave, and I thank him every day. He is opening my eyes not just about my food issues, but my life in general. I think of it like a song, the song Amazing Grace. I once was so lost, but now I am found. I was blind, but now I see. Thank you, God, for this awareness that you're giving me. Thank you for knowing what I needed to hear and for showing me when to move. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And all my Jesus girlfriends said, amen.
All right, we've talked a lot about the spiritual side of getting healthy. Now I want to get real practical because I know you want to know how to apply some of these concepts. We're going to talk about making better food choices now. There are ways we can replace unhealthy treats with better options. Dr. Ski Chilton is joining us again, and we're going to talk about making healthy substitutions. He's now going to show us how choosing the wrong foods can actually make us undernourished, whereas choosing the right foods can fuel our bodies. So let's join the conversation with Dr. Chilton now.
What I want to talk about is the idea of malnutrition in America, and I know that sounds strange. I am so blessed that God has allowed me to go to Africa several times a year, and I really am blessed to be able to work on the problem of severe malnutrition in places like Africa. And when we think of malnutrition, we think of Africa, and the thing that I've realized in Africa is the issue is not so much that they don't get enough calories, but it's the calories which they get. Children in Africa eat sorghum, millie meal, and maize, which is about 90% carbohydrates, right, 7% protein, 2% fat. That's malnutrition in Africa. Well, we have malnutrition here in the United States, and there's a recent study that was just published that showed that 72% of the calories that we eat are not recognized by our genes.
Wow.
So by definition, these are empty calories. They are doing no good. They're not making us healthy. They're not giving us energy. They're not making us feel better. And in fact, they're making us very, very unhealthy.
Right. Wow. I would never think that in America,
right,
we
where
would
we have so much
suffer,
food.
Exactly, that we would suffer from malnutrition, but it really comes down to a matter of choice, right?
It really does. It's the types of food. And again, we have two problems here in the United States. You know, we're number one in healthcare spending, and according to the World Health Organization, easy for you guys to say, yeah, the WHO, we're number 37th in performance. And the reason is because we have both this obesity epidemic and this malnutrition issue. Mm-hmm. And tonight I want to specifically get into the places where that there is malnutrition, and we in America have to make really, really good choices.
Yeah, let's talk about polyphenols, because that's a big word that really means the stuff that is the compounds that are in the skin around grapes and other ripe fruits and vegetables,
yeah,
right?
I want to talk about fruits and vegetables because that is an area where we are dramatically missing the compounds we need. need. And again, you mentioned this big word, polyphenols. And again, I'm not going to test you on this, but there are about 5,000 compounds in fruits and vegetables that if we get these, we dramatically improve our health. And if you go to GeneSmart.com and you download the Go Guide, you're going to see high polyphenol and low polyphenol fruits and vegetables. We need you to eat 5 to 7 servings of those a day. Now, we really urge that you use whole foods to get these, but sometimes you can. And again, there's 2 effects that really have shown how important they are. One is called the French paradox, and the French paradox is where people in places like France eat really fatty foods, but yet they're protected against cardiovascular disease. And that has been attributed to those polyphenols in dark skin juices and fruits and vegetables. There's something called the Asian paradox, which if you ever go to Asia, the first thing you'll notice is all the men are smoking when you get off the plane. And yet there's almost no cancer. And what that's been attributed to is the catechins in green tea. Now, I hate green tea. I mean, I'm just going to be up front with you. I hate it. So I have to take it as a supplement. I have to take to get the catechins as a supplement.
And I didn't even know that there was a green tea supplement. So this is brand new to me, and I just, since talking to you, started taking this. Now, sometimes I cannot get the number of fruits and vegetables that I need. So I take a supplement that is a whole food supplement, fruits, veggies, and berries, and it's called Juice Plus, and I love it, and I've been taking it for years. But the green tea, I never knew there was a green tea supplement, and I was so excited when you gave that information to me.
Yeah, to get the 250 to 400 milligrams of catechins a day, you have to have 4 to 5 glasses of green tea per day. We just don't do that well in the United States. So supplements work really well. Now, the other key place that we're really missing key nutrients are omega-3 fatty acids, and those are just so essential. And I know I spoke about those a couple of shows ago, and I spoke, if you're in the highest quartile, if you have the highest quarter of circulating levels of omega-3, there are recent studies that suggest that you reduce your chance of a heart event by 90%.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got to say that again. If you're in the highest quartile of your intake of healthy omega-3s, you can reduce the risk of a heart attack or heart event, as you said, by 90%. Now, I think this would be a great time to introduce someone you guys are going to be so excited because you hear from her through email on my blog, but it is my lovely, beautiful executive assistant and friend, Holly Good. So I want Holly to come out here because if you look at Holly, she's very healthy. She has gone on this Made to Crave journey with me, experienced tremendous success. Holly and I both were feeling really good, that we were super healthy, right?
Feeling great. I lost 20 pounds. You lost at least 20 pounds.
Yeah, almost 30. And we thought we were doing absolutely fantastic.
Right.
And then we met Dr. Chilton,
who has developed this great test because he believes in this issue so much that he really wants people to know what their omega-3, omega-6 levels are.
Yeah, and we took Holly and Lisa and we pricked their finger and we did a finger stick test, and we've worked out a test in which we can measure all omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. And again, omega-6 fatty acids are the bad fatty acids. They cause inflammation. Omega-3 are the good, and we want high levels of omega-3. Now, I looked at these 2 ladies and I said, these ladies, if there's anyone who's going to have high levels of omega-3s, it'll be these 2 ladies, because they are, look, they're a picture of health.
You look great. That's
look at
right.
these ladies.
Absolutely.
And we
they
feel
felt
good.
great too.
We feel good. And I recently had blood tests that showed that my blood pressure's low, my cholesterol's low, my triglycerides are low, and yours were great too, I believe, as well.
Yeah,
so
but
we were
then-
shocked.
Yeah, and then we tested Lisa and we tested Holly, and Holly actually, and she's here and she said it's okay to talk about, but Holly was way down here on her omega-3. She was 4.2%, and to get into this highest quartile, you have to be above 8% of your fatty acids. So in spite of really eating well and really getting, what she needed or what she thought she needed, she wasn't taking enough omega-3s. And here's the issue. With omega-3s, the biggest problem is we're not taking enough of them. We don't get into the therapeutic range. Now, if you go to a typical fish oil supplement, and again, this is fish oil, it's going to say 1,000 milligrams on the front. Now, that doesn't mean 1,000 milligrams of the actives. It doesn't mean Okay, I'm going to use the word EPA and DHA are the compounds that are the active compounds. That doesn't mean there's 1,000 milligrams of that in it. What it means is if you look on the back that there are 600 milligrams of EPA plus DHA in 2 capsules. So you would have to take 4 capsules of this to really get into the range that's going to move Holly up into this. Again, there are supplements, and again, this is a Gene Smart supplement. This is one of our supplements that is double the concentration, so you take one of these in the morning and one in the evening, and you get 1,200 milligrams. It's a concentrated fish oil. Again, we love for you to get it with whole foods, salmon mackerel. It's beautiful. So,
but how much fish would you have to eat to get up into that high percent? Because I eat a lot of the healthy fish, and I was only in the upper 6s.
That's right. It's 4 to 6 servings a week of a really, really oily fish. Now, the other thing I want to point out real quick, and I know we're running out of time, it's so difficult to get ripened berries this time of year to get your polyphenols. And again, at Sam's Club, and Sam's, they should be giving me some money for all this because I keep on advertising them. But they have this triple berry mix that is phenomenal because, again, for $6 and a half, you don't have to be rich. You can get full of polyphenols, and you can make smoothies, and you can put it on your cereal, and it's so very exciting. I have this constantly. I eat this constantly.
We use it too. Make smoothies with it. All right, very good. We promised we would take some Twitter questions, and we got some really early on, some really good ones. Lisa, I like this one. Tell me what you think. She asks the question, do you suggest that all refined sugar be eliminated from one's diet, or is a little okay? And if so, how do you prevent a little from snowballing to a lot? And I know that you've dealt with this issue.
I have dealt with this issue, and I tell you, for me, I had to go cold turkey. For me, really sugar, and I read some studies on sugar that it can be as addictive as heroin. And for me, that was true. Now, I don't label that if every person wants to get healthy, they have to do what I did. Right. It's just for me, I knew I had to, for a season, give up sugar. And it was really important for me. And Dr. Chilton, you're much more qualified to answer something about sugar or, what you feel like.
The insidious thing is it's estimated that we eat over 200 pounds of it per year. And so it's incredibly difficult to get rid of simple sugars, but it is so important. It is so important to try to eliminate them as much as possible. You will not eliminate them with the modern Western diet, but it is important to do what Lisa has done and try to eliminate simple sugars, not all carbohydrates, but simple sugars as much as you can.
Were you as surprised as I was that Americans are actually undernourished? It all comes down to the choices that we make. Are we going to keep eating those empty calories and continue to lack the nourishment that we need? Or are we going to choose better options? The food that God created to sustain our bodies and make us healthy. This week, I want to encourage you to go through the Bible and find some amazing verses of faith, or label your shield the same as mine. What I want you to do is take it up. When something tries to bring you down this week, I want you to take it up. Take up your shield of faith. I used to think that my weight struggles were the biggest curse of my life. But when I take it up, instead of letting it bring me down, I take up my shield of faith, and I can say with all certainty, this has developed my perseverance. This has absolutely given me a chance to please God in a way that I never would have if I didn't have these weight struggles.